Welcome to Unleashed Opinion, boldly challenging the powers that be while keeping liberals in their place with conservative ideals and common sense solutions.
Hello, folks. Welcome to the Unleashed Opinion. We're live and worldwide once again. We're in studio this evening instead of on the porch, and that means we can take phone calls. And if I had some videos set up, we could run them too, but I didn't, and we won't. I don't think. Anyway, big thank you out to our service members doing what you do, putting your lives on hold, your family's lives on hold, defending everyone's freedom in this country. Big thanks to John for putting everything together. Of course, we're moving this, relocating the studio here. We got a little more room.
Got a brand new bunker.
There you go. Everybody out there that sends us text and things to take a look at on Facebook or otherwise, it helps out a lot. You guys out there in the garage, Route 125, you guys rock. I'll be out a little bit later, so. And the Fulton County Connection, I got half of them here in the studio with me this evening. Brett's on board with me this evening. So
That's right, the deplorable is back.
First responders, firefighters, nurses, people in the emergency rooms, everything that you do, it goes, does not go unnoticed by us, and we greatly appreciate what you do. People out there in corrections doing what you do, because it's a thankless job. So,
And from what I understand, it's gotten a lot worse since we left.
I couldn't imagine.
It's some of the things I hear just
It's unreal.
makes me so glad I'm out of there.
Yep. Anyway, something positive. If you recall, it's about a year and a half or so ago, there's an outfit in Kansas City was putting 13 tiny homes for homeless veterans. So after 2 years of planning, the group of homeless veterans in Kansas City, Missouri, will finally have a place to call home. Their Veterans Community Project built 13 tiny homes consisting of 4 family units, 9 single units, all fully functional. Not only will the veterans have a place to call home, they will also have access to classes on how to manage finances, cook, stay healthy, and overcome substance abuse. Super. Members of the Veterans Community Project believe that without these homes, many of the veterans will end up in jail or still be homeless, which, that goes to figure. They plan to continue the progress made here by adding 19 more homes during Phase 2 of the project. There are also plans to build a community center for the residents. So that's pretty awesome. That's real awesome. People come together and build a small community for these veterans who are down on their luck and not having things go well for them. That's a very good deal.
When these guys can help each other.
Absolutely.
They're living in that close proximity to each other, and they can help each other.
Sure. Because
you and I don't have the experiences that they have.
No.
And if you are living next to someone who had similar experiences, then that can only be a positive.
Sure, you got somebody there to talk to that knows what you've been through. So yeah, that's great. That's very good.
Well, here's another one for something good. David Bellavia served as an Army Staff Sergeant. He's going to receive the Medal of Honor for rescuing his squad and clearing out a house full of Iraqi insurgents during the Battle of Fallujah. The Medal of Honor is our nation's highest military award for valor, and he will receive his Medal of Honor on June 25th. The Second Battle of Fallujah, or Operation Phantom Fury, was the bloodiest battle of the Iraq War. Coalition forces entered the city in November 2004 to retake it from the rapidly growing Iraqi insurgency. Close to 100 American soldiers lost their lives during the month-and-a-half-long battle. Bellavia's platoon had been ordered to clear out a block of 12 buildings when the soldiers were pinned down during the fighting, which was taking place at night. So that's even...
Yeah.
Rather than put one of his own men at risk, Bellavia grabbed an M249 light machine gun and provided covering fire for his fellow soldiers to escape. A Bradley fighting vehicle arrived to support the soldiers but was unable to rotate its turret to fire into the house full of insurgents. It seemed like they couldn't move. Then Bellavia ran into the house with an M16 where he helped clear out the entire house and killed 4 insurgents inside. Congratulations. Job well done. In one dramatic moment, Bellavia entered a room full of propane tanks and plastic explosives.
Uh-oh.
What do you think he said?
Shit.
I was thinking of something else, but yeah, he probably did that, but said something else. Or I would have done that. For fear of setting off the explosion, he fought an insurgent hand to hand before wrestling him to the ground and stabbing him in the collarbone. Bellavia said, "This is not a John Rambo moment. I'm really scared."
And you know what? If you're not, there's something wrong with you.
Then maybe you really shouldn't. Bellavia killed one more insurgent on the roof, who then fell off of the building. Oh, darn.
Yeah.
He continued to fight until joined by other members of his platoon. According to the White House, Bellavia enlisted in the Army in 1999 and first served in Kosovo before deploying to Iraq in 2004. He was discharged from the Army a year later in 2005 and now co-hosts a daily radio talk show in Buffalo, New York. He also serves as the co-founder for Vets for Freedom. Oh, no, a conservative veterans advocacy group.
Oh, you know what? They're not going to be on Facebook. I'll tell you that.
Probably not. Michael Ware, a Time magazine journalist who'd been detailed with Bellavia's unit, wrote in Bellavia's initial Medal of Honor nomination that Staff Sergeant Bellavia single-handedly saved 3 squads of his 3rd platoon that night, risking his own life by allowing them to break contact and reorganize. He then entered and cleared an insurgent strongpoint, killing 4 insurgents and mortally wounding another. And by the way, that Medal of Honor will go really nice with the Silver Star he's got.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And that's pretty impressive. Very impressive. Very impressive.
No, I would have done what you said, but I would have said something else.
Yeah, he's been through that stuff we talked about. Only another veteran will know about. So, hats off to this guy. He's definitely earned that Medal of Honor.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Yes. Well, we got let's see. We got Mike Robeson out there, Steve Snyder, Stoker's out there, John Hamilton, Teresa Still, and yes, Busch Light is the official sponsor of the nation.
It's not really Busch Light in there. It's
something.
It's Bubble Up.
Sure, we'll go with that. As you know, we've been supporting the Second Amendment movement here in Illinois with this. The Second Amendment town hall meetings to make sanctuary counties throughout the state, in the most screwed up state in the union possibly. And there's about 64 counties, I think, that have passed this resolution. And Sangamon County, which is Springfield, Illinois, so far is not one of them. However, the Second Amendment Town Hall for Sangamon County is Saturday, July 13th from 2 to 4 p.m. at Destiny Church at 2423 South MacArthur Boulevard. So the featured speaker is David Campbell from Effingham County Board. He's the board member there and founder of Void the Void and Sanctuary County Movement in Illinois. So if you get a chance, that'd be a good place to go attend some meetings, get some ideas, have a little input, speak to some people. So the Second Amendment is very important, especially to me.
Well, if you don't think it is important, I got an article right here. Eric Swalwell. He has a plan for handguns once AR-15s are confiscated.
Oh, so there's confiscation in order.
Oh, yeah. Well, and
go
this
figure.
This was on CNN. That's a shocker. I know. He was being interviewed by S.E. Cup on her Unfiltered show, and she began the segment by telling him she appreciates the fact that he's one of the few leftist candidates who admits he plans to take away an entire category of firearms.
So he just wants to basically do away with the Second Amendment because once he gets rid of assault weapons and then handguns, it's just a domino effect.
He claims Australia has done it right.
Yeah, that's not working so good for him. Well, go ahead.
Well, she said gun control advocates have often say no one is coming to take your guns away, but you say, yes, I am, and that is refreshingly honest. Well, here, I'll give you something else that's refreshingly honest, Ms. Cup. Come and get mine.
There you go.
She pointed out assault weapons are involved in less than 5% of gun murders in America. She then asked this moron, why is he stopping at assault weapons and not confiscating handguns? And he had his little Spartacus moment. He made clear he has plans for handguns once he gets rid of assault weapons. Like I said.
Of course they do.
Like I said, come and get mine. Come and get mine.
Well, you know what? If you're anti-gun, and you want to come take people's weapons away from them, then by all means, come to my house unarmed, because you're the
Well, see, this is the kind of guy who says he's going to come and get all of our weapons and stuff. Do you think this douchebag is going to be in front of the line to come and get them?
No.
He's
There's
going to
no way.
He's going to send people that risk their lives for a living to come and take our guns. He's not going to do it
No,
because he doesn't have the intestinal fortitude.
absolutely not.
And yes, Bob, I toned that down.
Oh, now you know in London they've outlawed guns, right?
Knives are next.
Well, they're working on that. London murder rate overtakes New York as knife crimes rise.
No way. No.
Yep. There were 15 murders in London in February against 14 in New York, according to London's Metropolitan Police Service and the New York Police Department. For March, 22 murders investigated in London with 21 reports in New York.
Well, Steve, what's the mayor of London doing about that?
Well, he's wanting to outlaw knives because the knife attacks are increasing because they've taken away everybody's guns. But here again, we've talked about this over and over. If you're going to commit a violent crime, you're going to do it with something.
Well, isn't this the same Stain who had the time to criticize President Trump when he went over to Normandy?
Yes, he
Well,
is.
he's got time to do that. Mm-hmm. You know, I agree with the president. Once you fix what you got wrong and leave us alone.
And yeah, and you know what? When you claim you fix something and it works, which you know it's not going to in this case, then come talk to us.
Well, they're going to be outlawing butter knives before long, you know.
Oh, sure. Gun violence is much less of a problem in Britain because they pretty much, which has stricter gun control laws than the United States, and most British police are not equipped with firearms.
No, the Bobbies aren't.
No, they're not. But British politicians and police are increasingly expressing concern about London's rising murder rate, which is driven by a surge in knife crimes. Of the 47 murders in London so far this year, 31 have been committed with knives.
Well, you know what other police force doesn't carry weapons or doesn't carry guns? That's the Okinawan police force. They carry the long sticks. Trust me, they're really good with them. They are really good
I'll
with
bet
them.
they are. I'll bet they are. So, and here, so it doesn't matter what you outlaw or what laws you pass. The bottom line is murder is illegal. That's it. That's all you got to know. All the other laws that you're going to pass, especially in this country, are going to infringe upon your Second Amendment and not going to change a thing.
Well, we spent over 25 years in the Department of Corrections, and we saw how you can take a wet newspaper, fold it to a point, let it dry, and it is a knife.
Yes.
So you can outlaw newspapers too?
Just give them a little time.
Well, they're going out of business anyway. But
Yeah. Well, there'll still be some type of paper product out there as well.
3D paper printer.
Yeah. Hey, we got Chucklehead Deacon out there this evening too.
Hey, you know what Bob told me?
Uh-oh.
That Robin couldn't be here tonight because he was out in Hollywood doing a remake of the movie Twins with Rachel Maddow.
Is that true, Chucklehead?
That's what Bob said. I don't,
Well, Bob's never wrong.
No.
Oh, boy. You talked about the prison system. The federal prison in the Canadian province of Alberta is reportedly ready to begin the first supervised drug injection site for prisoners. I know when we were in the prison system, we were doing everything we could do to keep drugs.
To keep it from
out of-
happening.
Yeah, this is pretty amazing. Well, this is, a socialist country, so...
I guess they've given up on rehabilitation.
Well, pretty much, I guess. If you're going to inject drugs, here, let us help you.
Okay, well, let's say a heroin user gets a 3-year sentence, and instead of forcibly being taken off of that drug while in the prison
You
system,
mean detoxing while he's there?
and which that's a real pretty sight too, but making them stop while they're there, so that when they leave prison, it's up to them to fight that. So now what Canada is saying, okay, you're an addict, we're going to let you be an addict, and we're going to kick you out the door an addict.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
No, it's not a good idea at all. It's not a good idea at all.
Well, it's Canada, so. A correctional officers union says the facility is in Drumheller and could be up and running by the end of June. The National Post reported supervised injection sites already dot the Canadian urban landscape with numerous programs in operation in cities from Vancouver to Toronto. The sites allow drug addicts to inject themselves with heroin, illegal anywhere in Canada, without fear of police intervention. Is that super or what?
That's progressive.
That's stupid.
Well, it's progressive thinking.
The first such site in North America was opened in Vancouver, a city that is currently experiencing record high levels of heroin and opioid overdoses. Well, I wonder why.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. What did you think was going to happen? What a bunch of morons.
I'd like to hear the reason for that. Why let it continue? Why support it?
I'm going to guess they don't want to offend anybody.
Do you have to buy your shot on commissary, or is that provided?
Well, I don't. Let's get further in the article. I don't know. Despite the original facility and the second being in operation, Vancouver is also looking at decriminalizing heroin use in a controversial attempt at reducing drug deaths, because that'll help. There's another really good idea. What a bunch of morons! What's wrong with these people? Correctional Services Canada, which is also called CSC, responsible for all the federal penitentiaries in Canada, is neither confirming nor denying the report, but the Drumheller prison already has a needle exchange program that is also part of the harm reduction strategy aimed at reducing the prevalence of HIV and other diseases among drug users, even if they're in prison and shouldn't have access to any drugs. And there's also a little blurb in here that says Bill de Blasio backs government-sponsored heroin injection sites also in New York. So don't be surprised when you see that come across the crawler on CNN. CSC received an exemption from Healthcare Canada to permit the implementation of an overdose prevention, suicide, and Drumheller Institution. Discussions and planning concerning the implementation of overdose prevention services are ongoing. The president of the Union of Canada Correctional Services, Jeff Wilkins, says talk of supervised injection sites coincide with the union's growing opposition to the needle exchange program, a scheme they say is unsafe for guards. No kidding.
Really, because you have to assume that correctional staff has to be in the room with them when this is going on.
Well,
so what do? You hand them a weapon.
Sure. And you know what? They could use the needle first, then poke you with it. It's hard telling what they got, because, I always said when we worked in corrections, these people are liable to have
anything,
diseases we haven't even been named yet. So this is a really stupid idea. Thank you, Canada, and watch for Bill de Blasio in New York to follow suit, because he's not real sharp either.
Well, isn't Mayor Bill running for president too?
Yeah, but that's unfortunate.
Well, I thought I saw. Maybe somebody who's watching can help me out with this. William Weld, the former Republican governor of Massachusetts, has thrown his hat in the ring to run against President Trump. Now, didn't William Weld run as the vice presidential candidate for that Gary Johnson, the last election cycle?
I don't know.
See, I'm not sure. I mean, I know William Weld was governor of Massachusetts, but I thought he ran with Gary Johnson as the whatever party.
Oh, I don't remember now. I remember Gary Johnson.
Yeah.
And I watched him on some of the interviews, and he wasn't very good. He wasn't very good. But anyway, we've got Dan Lenny out there this evening, too. What else have I got here? Oh, here's something. This kind of caught my eye. This is in the Springfield paper. Springfield, Illinois, the State Journal Register. Is from June 7th. Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan, Senate President John Cullerton have been banned from receiving communion in Springfield area churches because of their support for legislation that expands abortion accesses. The decree barring Illinois' two highest-ranking lawmakers, both Catholic Democrats from Chicago, from taking the sacrament, was issued by Thomas Paprocki, Bishop of the Springfield Diocese, less than a week after the abortion bills won final approval in the legislature and sent to Governor J.B. Pritzker.
The hierarchy in your guys' church confuses me.
Well, yeah, I'm not real familiar with it either.
But today, supposedly today, the Pope put out a 31-page pamphlet saying that God determines what sex you are when you're born.
That, you know what? I don't think too much of this Pope, because he says some goofy stuff.
I know, but he went the other way, I guess, in the pamphlet that they put out. He said homosexuality was destroying the family unit. He said, God determines what sex you are when you're born. If you're a man, be happy about it. If you're a woman, be happy about it.
Yeah.
I mean, and I had heard like you that the Pope leaned a little left, but from what I understand, the material he put out today really disappointed some people.
That's unfortunate. You know, we've been disappointed before too. So,
I'm not Catholic, so I'm neutral.
okay, for more than a decade, Springfield, the diocese, has also refused to give Illinois U.S. Senator Dick Durbin communion because his voting history on abortion measures also. So, does this mean anything to these people when the Catholic Church comes out? And I know it may not mean a whole lot to some people, but you know what? When the churches come out and say you can't,
You shouldn't. Well, they're saying they can't take communion.
yes,
Okay.
they can't take communion because of their stance on this abortion issue. Does that mean anything to anybody? I mean, do you have to be a religious person to follow that, or I don't know.
Well, if you extend that out, though, extend it out. They're just talking about communion right now.
Right.
What about last rites?
I don't know. I didn't mention that.
No, it didn't. But that's why I say if you extend it out, you know.
Yeah, well, here's one of those issues that may not stop us. Have a stopping point. So, I don't know. Just something that kind of caught my eye. Hey, do you see there in Fern Creek High School in Kentucky, there's a 3-day class called Adulting 101.
Okay, go ahead.
It's a 3-day class. This is, I'm assuming, somewhere close to your senior year.
Well, that's how long it took me to become an adult. 3 days.
Good job, Brush.
That's 3 days squared times years. I'm sorry, go ahead.
But they're teaching life skills such as how to change a tire or hang a picture on a wall, do laundry, personal finances. I'm like, if you're a senior and you don't know this, you need to start over again because apparently you spent way too much time in your parents' basement. Because I thought, because personal financing is a lot of basic math.
Yeah, maybe the principal should go give the parents an attention or something.
Well, there's the other thing. How come the school's got to do this? Because where are the parents at? I mean, and some people do not have the luxury of living with their parents.
Right.
So
right.
I kind of get that, but surely somebody, other than having to get it from a school, would mentor these kids on basic life skills. I mean, and they're going to do this in 3 days?
Adulting. Yeah, okay.
Sure. I don't see that working out real well. But
Well,
hey,
I mean,
you know what? It's a good attempt. I mean,
It's better than nothing.
absolutely.
I don't know what else. It's better than nothing. I've told you many times about my trainee that I had in the Air Force.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into it, but that kid should have went through 6 days.
At a minimum, huh?
Honest to God, Sergeant, I still had checks left. I thought I had money.
And you know what? I've heard that before too. People have checks in their checkbook. They think they got check or money in their checking account and just keep on writing and wonder why they get in a bind.
Well, you go into the office and your boss says, "Hey, the first sergeant wants to see you." Well, me immediately, I'm thinking, "Wait a minute, what did I do? What did I do?" Then it was actually a relief when I went in there and I didn't do anything, but I still got chewed out.
Well, Well, he didn't take the class apparently.
He certainly didn't pass it.
So it was up to you to set him straight.
Oh, I had to pay all that kid's bills. I had to give him an allowance. I had to say, sign this check, sign that check. It was like having a kid.
Wow. And he's in the military.
Yeah. Now, when it came to trying to teach him to do his job, forget it.
Really?
He was a walking danger. He was a menace to himself and to me.
Phew. And you got shouldered with all that.
Well, the kid, we're told from day one on the job that I did, you do not walk in front of a jet engine intake. Why? You'll get sucked in. So I told him, leave the screwdriver by the panel. That'll be the last thing we take away before we launch the aircraft. What's little genius do? He goes over, picks up the screwdriver, puts it in the toolbox. I'm standing at the airplane. We're ready to go, and I can't cover this panel because the screwdriver's gone. So I said, go get the screwdriver. He turns around and takes a straight beeline to go to the toolbox, which is way over there. If I had not grabbed him by the back of his shirt, he'd have been hamburger. I'm like, Jesus, it's hard enough to watch me.
And you mean that.
I know. But anyway, let's go on.
Well, let's see. What do you got over there?
Well, you know that President Trump and Hayden Biden were in Iowa today. Well, I've got a top secret document here from Breitbart about Joe Biden leaks prepared plan to attack Donald Trump in Iowa.
Really?
My first thought was, he going to run up to him, mess up his hair, or what?
Really? He's going to sniff his hair,
Okay,
run his fingers through it, you know.
give him a big old hug. Okay,
Really like that comb over.
You're rocking it.
Hey, where do you get that tan?
Out of a excerpts from the speech were leaked to CBS News in an attempt to set up a showdown, you know, because you got to have all the good press and stuff. It doesn't matter what they're going to say. Biden plans to call Trump an existential threat to democracy and will challenge him on trade, foreign policy, and climate change.
Sure he will, because his 30 years in the legislature so far has worked out so well for everybody, right?
Oh, this gets better. The former vice president will also criticize Trump for hurting farmers with his tariff fight with China and his position on climate change. Because after all, President Trump made it ring really hard this year.
Yeah,
Shame
it's
on him
Trump's
for that.
fault, yes.
And anybody with half a brain understands Trump doesn't want to have to put tariffs on China. He's the only one with the intestinal fortitude that will do it, because it's a long game. It's not a short game. It's a long game.
Exactly. Well, it's Joe Biden. He can't see past the next.
Well, you know, he hasn't heard what his position is from Alyssa Milano yet. So.
Oh, there's another issue he's going to talk about, isn't it?
But anyway, if he was just another rich guy sitting in his gold-plated apartment in Manhattan tweeting about how those pointy-headed scientists don't know anything, it wouldn't matter. But he's president. Yes, he is, and you're not.
And you're not going to be.
Biden also plans to attack Trump's crude language and behavior on Twitter. This is my favorite part here.
Okay.
What are you going to do when your kids start tweeting like Trump and say, well, the president did it, and he plans to say that? Well, you know what? You smack the kid upside the head and say, you're not president.
And don't do that.
And don't do that.
Well, what did Joe Biden tell Obama when he was passing Obamacare? Mr. President, this is a big flipping deal on a hot mic, right? Okay, Joe. So, yeah, I see where you're coming from. You got Dwight Eddington out there this evening, too.
But you and I were talking earlier. I really did. I heard and it was on CNN, that Biden changed his position on the Hyde Amendment because he got a phone call from Alyssa Milano.
Well, that's who I'd be taking advice from.
Me too. I wonder if she could hear him sniffing her hair through the phone.
That's funny. Maybe.
Hold it up close, Alyssa. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You're as warped as Joe Biden. Maybe.
How many years of Democratic leadership did we have?
Wow. Well, and Alyssa Milano, of all people, to take advice from.
Yeah, the A-list actress.
Right. And until she started coming out speaking out politics, I didn't know who the hell she was. So.
You know, the only reason I knew her was because when my daughter was little, she used to watch that TV show Charmed, and she was on that, and that's
it.
And she was in a show with Tony Danza too, I think. I can't remember.
Well,
what
that'll
the name
help.
was. Yeah, well, yeah. Look at Tony. How many Oscars he got now?
None that I'm aware of. So
Same with her too. And
Oh.
and she had the let me see. Let me rephrase. She had the mammary glands to call John Voight an F-list actor.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, because we post that on our page. And then that page went on, or the posting we had out there went on to list all the stuff he'd done compared to what she'd done, and there was no comparison.
But she knows it all. She knows it all.
No, I think not. Let's see. What else we got here? Oh, this is flipping wonderful, too. University of Illinois has become the target of a lawsuit claiming the school has violated its students' free speech rights. Now, I'm going to guess they're violating conservative students' free speech here, but due to the way the rest of the country has gone with particularly Berkeley University.
Does that article say who's representing? It's not like the ACLU or...
No, let me go on here. Virginia-based Speech First filed the lawsuit last week against Illinois in U.S. District Court in Urbana. The News Gazette in Champaign reports the lawsuit accuses the university of squelching free speech by requiring prior approval for posting leaflets. It also claims the university uses practices, including biased response teams that intimidate students into silence. This lawsuit indicates it was filed following complaints by students. It didn't identify. Speech First President Nicole Neely, an Illinois graduate, said she was disappointed to learn about the alleged violations of the students' free speech rights and decided it was necessary to take action. Similar lawsuits have been filed by the organization against the University of Texas and the University of Michigan. So, that's pretty sad. You hear about it in California because you expect stupid stuff like that. But, just a few miles down the road here in Illinois, of course, I guess it is Illinois, and we should probably expect that. But I was really disappointed to hear that on the University of Illinois campus.
Did you hear about the dyslexic lawyer?
No, go ahead.
He studied for the BRAW exam.
Go ahead, caller.
Why, hello. Is this Chet Huntley and David Brinkley?
Why, yes, it is. Go ahead.
How you doing?
Such an educated show, and so well spoken, and so well versed you two are.
I told you, Bob, I'm not going to loan you money.
That hurts bad. I'm working up here selling pencils on the street corner in Canton, pretending to be a blind man, which is only a half falsehood.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Well, you got to remember, Bob, you're pushing 60.
Not as much as you're pushing it, Brett.
Boy, how did I know that was coming?
Yeah.
You sure did. What are we talking about tonight, children?
Well, Steve just read an article about your alma mater. The U of I is involved in a lawsuit involving free speech.
Yeah, apparently there's some people at the University of Illinois suppressing free speech and intimidating people.
Well, yeah, that was me way back in the late 70s.
Well, we knew that. This is more current, Bob. This is more current.
Golly, well, why are they doing that, guys? What's the premise? What's the problem? And what's the issue there?
It really didn't go on to say. Just said there's a lawsuit being filed on about people being intimidated about free speech, and we associated that with Berkeley University and several other universities, that wouldn't let Ann Coulter and Milo Yiannopoulos and Ben Shapiro speak and such things as that. So,
well, the article was too ambiguous about who was suing for what reason.
Well, it was Speech First, an outfit. I'm not familiar with them, but Virginia-based Speech First filed a lawsuit last week against the university.
Wonderful. If you're whatever's left of your viewership after I've called, you can remember, Stephen, way back 3 years ago or so when our hair was darker, there was something going on about was it Florida or Atlanta, where the poor university students were traumatized by chalk marks saying "Vote Trump."
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what they need.
I don't know what's going on there. They just don't seem to be very tough anymore in the universities. They're not drinking enough, perhaps.
Well, I know that didn't happen when you were at the U. I did it, Bob.
No. You got to remember, we don't need to go into that. And that could tie into my thinking. Have you guys talked about the stuff that's going on in Iowa, the upcoming debates, presidential election, and the potential Democratic candidates?
Well, I just did an article about Joe Biden leaked some information about his planned attack on President Trump in Iowa today. His big closing thing, Bob, was what are you going to do when your kids start tweeting like Trump and say, "Well, the president did it"? What are you going to do?
If that's the best you got to come out with, that's pretty sad.
I'd slap my kid upside the head and say, "You're not president."
Yeah, knock that crap off.
Yeah, you're not the president.
on a more serious note, this 2020 is this old guard Democrats' last gasp at power. Because come 2024, I mean, they're all going to be gone. Pelosi, Schumer, they're going to be in wheelchairs on oxygen. They're trying to wheel out what now? They're trying to wheel out Biden, Mr. Socialist Bernie, and Elizabeth Pocahontas, Warren. And if this is what they're going to wheel out, I feel very good about 2020. But this is the old guard's last gasp, and it's going to be up to their children. The towel heads coming out of friggin' Minnesota and the other place. Those are the ones that are coming in behind them. And we talked about that before. I brought it up. Don't worry about 2020. If we're alive, 2024, 2028, that's when the dangerous socialist Democrats are really going to, make a mark.
Well, see, you and I talked earlier. You cannot take 2020 for granted. Too many people are saying Trump is going to win in a landslide. Trump is going to do this. But, people thought the same thing about Hillary in 2016.
Sure.
So if you support you don't have to support Donald Trump. If you support the Trump policies that he's trying to carry out, you need to get out and vote no matter what. No matter what you hear, go vote.
That's true. And you're absolutely right, no matter who they run. But I find it humorous that the Democrats' three best candidates at the start of this, and it's so early, is they're parading out Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Elizabeth Warren, three old Caucasians. And that's why I say this is their last, chance, at power or to pass this. And to say what you're saying, Brett, is if they can get it in 2020, heaven forbid, they can pass that baton down in 2024 and 2028 to a younger, very socialist Democrat, dangerous, system coming in.
Yes, the nice thing is all of those candidates are older than I am. That's a good thing. I like that. But for years, almost every election cycle, we always hear, oh, this is the most important election. You got to go do this. You got to go do that. But I've never really truly believed that until 2020. This 2020 election will shape the direction of our country.
Do you think, though, Brett, and let's the viewers out there can chime in. Well, let's say Trump wins it in 2020. Where do you see this country then in 5 years? 5 years ain't nothing but a blink of an eye. I'm looking to the future, and I know 2020 is so very important. If we get Trump for 4 more years, the country's going good. Who in the Republican side do you see anybody carrying the baton forward?
Well, you got
after Trump's gone.
I think all of the people I'm about to name all have a different style than Trump. But I think
most people do, yes.
They support Trump's policies. I'm talking about Evan Gatz. He's a really young Republican congressman, conservative. Mm-hmm. You got Devin Nunes, who's a potential candidate. You have
Trey Gowdy, Louis Gohmert.
You have Jeff Jordan. I mean, there's potential candidates out there.
Mark Meadows.
Right.
It's just whether they want to do it and put up with everything that they'll have to put up with. I think there's potential out there, but only time will tell.
Right. And like I said, I just feel concerned, as you and I have talked about, is if we lay down at the polls thinking Trump's a wash, we hand it over to one of these old farts. Three of them are on this call right now. And we hand it over to a Biden. We hand it over to a Biden and whatever. But there's a whole lot of outsiders that could come up like the Magic Negro did. Well, and, the Kamala Harris's, the really radical ones could come up and charge forward, too. So if we elect an old-school Democrat, they're just going to pass the baton over to a Kamala Harris in 2024. Not good for the future.
Kamala's not really an outsider. She's come up to the Democratic Party, and then she's just sabotaged the old Democratic Party with the new, with everything is free. Don't worry about it. We're going to get rid of guns. We're going to get rid of...
Yeah, and that's what she said, too. She says, if I'm elected president, by executive order, I'll do something with gun control, which is like what that one guy said. It's going to be confiscation.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Spartacus.
You know, Bob, you talk about the Democratic Party and who their front runners are at this point. And that was the same party a few years back saying, well, we need to get some people of color in there. We need some women in there and yada, yada. So who's their front runners? 3 old white people, 2 of them white guys.
Exactly.
So, you know,
And
they're talking out both sides of their mouth. They say one thing and do the other. So
now, I said, I'll keep it short. You guys, I know we're having a great show, but put it out to your viewers. I want you guys to, you know, everybody to think about, 2020 is very important. But if 2020 is important, it's because we're trying to carry this into, let's say, the future, to the
Exactly.
next couple of elections. We don't know where we're going to be. 2030 is 11 years away. In
Right.
11 years, I'm scared to see what can happen if we turn all this over in the next 5 years to the Democrats. I'll let it go at that. You guys have a great show.
Hey, Bob, hang on there for a second. You know
Okay.
about the California Democratic Convention, that John Delaney, and I forget where he came from now, he come out and said, Medicare for all may sound good, but it's actually not good policy, nor is it good politics. And the crowd booed. And he's not the only one. John Hickenlooper come out there and said, if you want to beat Donald Trump and achieve big progressive goals, socialism is not the answer. The crowd, more than
Right.
4,500 delegates, and they started booing him. So that tells me that these people, for some reason, these people are at these conventions are booing these people, seem to think that socialism is a really good idea. And where they got this idea is beyond me, because history shows us that it's a very poor idea.
Well, they're in love with the word free.
Well, until they figure out that at some point in time they're going to be paying out the wazoo for everybody else's stuff, and it's really going to upset them, or it should.
And then they won't have anything to wipe their wazoo.
Exactly. But and that's
Well,
exactly
that's
exactly what you're talking
and
about in
that's
2024 is what comes after Trump. And at this point, it looks like socialist. And that's not going to work for anybody, and we see that in Venezuela also. But you're exactly.
It scares me what this country's going to look like in the next 10 to 12 years, whether we're around or not.
Absolutely.
Depending on what happens with the turnover from Trump. If he loses in 2020, it's game on for the socialists.
Oh, absolutely,
And
absolutely.
Then I really think if these crazy socialists try to come after guns, there's going to be real problems.
Well, if they're so anti-gun, they should come unarmed then. So, but I'm sure they won't.
Spartacus is talking out of his ass, and of course that ass is, I'm sorry, been played with so much. That's the only curse word I'm saying.
But with him, Bob, how can you tell what end he's talking out of?
You sure don't, do you, buddy? You sure don't. You guys keep up the good work, and everybody out there, take care, and thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey, thanks for the call, Bob.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right.
I'll be over for coffee, Bob.
I think you probably already knew that. We've got Dave Jameson, Dave Orange out there this evening too. Oh, what article you got there next?
Well, I sent you a story that I saw about the Arkansas state senator, Republican state senator, that was found shot to death in her home. Well, then 2 days later, there was a Oklahoma Republican state senator found shot in his home. And I asked you if maybe the Clintons were branching out.
Yeah, well,
But,
don't never say never. It's right in their neighborhood.
It's just police reportedly. Now, this article deals specifically with State Senator Nichols in Oklahoma. He was found dead Friday. This is the second GOP state senator to be shot to death in the past 2 days. Police found Nichols dead by a gunshot wound in Norman, Oklahoma. His death comes 2 days after police discovered former Arkansas Republican Senator Linda Collins Smith dead from a gunshot wound. And she was wrapped in a blanket. But that's the only details. I mean,
Haven't really heard a whole lot about it.
I know there are coincidences in life, and especially when you're Arkansas and in Oklahoma. But it just, I'm surprised we haven't heard, take the guns. Because that's their rallying cry.
Sure it is, absolutely. Oh, speaking of guns, a couple articles here from ABC News from yesterday. More than 30 people were shot, 3 fatally over the weekend in gun-controlled Chicago. The latest bit of gun violence comes 1 week after Chicago witnessed an outbreak of gun crime that left over 50 shot, 10 fatally. The Chicago Tribune reported that all 31 individuals were shot during a 12-hour burst of gunfire from Friday evening to Saturday morning. 4 of those 31 victims died. 43 people were shot in gun-controlled Chicago over Memorial Day weekend. 7 of those victims died. So, how's that gun control working in Chicago? Not so good. You know, it's and I'm going to go and figure that these outbursts like this is going to be gang violence, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. So why don't you outlaw gangs instead of guns?
Well, as far as I know, aren't they illegal? Aren't they?
Well, they're not doing anything with them because they're wanting to take my guns, but
Well, yeah, because I guess they think it's easier to take your guns than
deal with gangs.
deal with
That
gangs.
might be, well,
They'd rather give gangs money for community development.
and that's how some of them got started, too.
Well, sure.
A lot of them got
Sure
started.
it is.
ABC News also says that laws have been passed on the aftermath of some of the most extreme instances of gun violence in the U.S. would have not necessarily prevented previous shootings, according to ABC News analysis. For example, while much focus has been put on curbing illegal sales of guns, an analysis of all 17 shootings over the last 2 decades shows that each of the massacres involved legally purchased guns. Okay, there have been 3 mass shootings over the past 20 years where guns were first purchased legally and were then obtained by the shooter who was either underage or been too young to purchase a weapon. There was the case in Columbine where the guns were bought by so-called straw buyers, meaning people who legally bought and allowed the person to have that gun. The Sandy Hook and Santa Fe shooter, both shooters used legally purchased guns taken from their parents. There was one in there, the Sandy Hook shooter killed and murdered his own mother to take her guns before he went on a rampage. So, you know, all these gun laws are talking about passing.
It's not going to make a difference.
No, it's not going to make a difference. It's going to keep the guns out of your hands and my hands. The ability to keep ourselves and our families safe, and it's going to infringe upon our Second Amendment, which I really, really don't like that.
It's funny how they always they revert back to they want to support the Constitution. Maybe they should read it.
Oh, that's crazy. Well,
because I don't get it. I don't.
What that one thing on Facebook, Ocasio-Cortez, they said, I'm supposed to read the Constitution, but it's in cursive.
Oh, that reminds me. How does an Ocasio-Cortez brain cell die?
I don't know.
Alone.
Wow. Where's Larry Budd when you need him? Because I know he appreciates your jokes.
Oh, well.
What else you got there?
Well, I was, there's a big to-do about all these states passing restrictive abortion laws.
Mm-hmm.
And also we just spent, the past 2.5 years talking about how President Trump was colluding with Russians. And well, it just so happens that, and believe it or not, folks, I swear to God, this is the name of the band. Russian band Pussy Riot to stage Planned Parenthood benefit in Alabama. So now who's colluding with Russians? And this article says that they're a Russian protest band. How hard could they be protesting if Putin still lets them live?
They're not protesting
They're
at
not
all.
protesting very hard. So they want to come over here and try to tell us about our abortion policy.
Well, see, we've got a little free speech going on here, especially with the agenda-driven policies we got going on now. So, yeah,
Well, and they're so proud of themselves. Look at that. They wear a ski mask.
well, that's pretty awesome there.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Good for them.
I'm sure Russia's perfect, so you need to come over here and help make us perfect.
Yeah, muck up our country.
Yeah. Love the band name though.
Oh, remember High Speed Rail out in California? And they shut her down because it's costing too much.
Well, and didn't the president say if you guys become a sanctuary state, you can forget about federal money for high-speed rail?
Yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, anyway, High Speed Rail took off, and they started claiming a bunch of farmers' ground, and they said that they were going to pay these people back. And this guy lost 70 acres of prime land. The rail contractors up mountains are rubble along his neat rows of irrigation hoses are all messed up. They left his place in a wreck. Of course, the rail construction at this point has been shut down.
Please tell me he's suing them.
Well, they still owe him $250,000 for over a year. He had to relocate some wells for irrigation, remove some trees, and build new roads for his farm out there. And the other part, this one guy who grows walnuts and almonds is owed $500,000. There's another guy owed $150,000. Brenda Church, former client, has been owed $1.9 million for 3 years. Ray Carter, who's voluntarily sold his farmland, says he has been owed $630,000 for 3 years. So California, okay,
Well, they have a surplus.
they had like a $30 billion surplus.
Yeah.
So how come you can't pay these people you owe them? Oh, wait, we know, because you're going to provide free health care for the illegals that come to your country. And there's another problem. You're providing health care for people who aren't supposed to be here. You can't pay these people the money you owe them, and you have people crapping and having tent cities in your city streets and homeless people everywhere.
Well, I was talking to Clay this morning, and I told him that somebody needed to go buy a bunch of that fake poop and the old play school syringes from like when we were kids, and send them to Nancy Pelosi with a note saying, just in case you miss home.
Yeah, no kidding, because that's right in her backyard.
Well, yeah.
I mean, well, she's got a fence around her house?
A wall.
A
Steve.
wall around
A
her
wall.
house?
Yeah.
A wall. I've heard about a wall somewhere before, and Nancy Pelosi's the one that spoke out against it, if I remember.
Tear down that wall.
So, quite the hypocrite.
Well, those homeless folks would just fertilize her garden for her.
So she can have illegals plant and pick her vegetation.
They
from the
wouldn't have
garden.
to. They wouldn't have to travel very far.
There you go. There you go.
There's a bush right over there.
Problem solved.
Go ahead and take a nap.
Brilliant, Brett. Brilliant.
Well, the only reason I brought that up was because was it yesterday that the Judiciary Committee had John Dean go testify
Okay.
about obstruction of justice. Now, who would know better than John Dean, who was convicted of obstruction of justice?
Well, he'd know everything except how not to do it or how to get away with it.
And secondly, what in the hell does he have to do with anything that's going on now? Well, I just wanted to give some people a reference. Well, thank you for assuming that I'm an idiot. Because I referenced the fact that you're an ex-con. You were a lawyer, but you are forever disbarred for what? Oh, wait, obstruction of justice.
Yeah, breaking the law. Wow, that's pretty amazing.
That's a dog and pony show. That's all that is. Jerry Nadler, he should be so ashamed of himself, but he's not. He's loving every minute of this.
He's in the spotlight, isn't he? And he's going absolutely nowhere with everything he's doing. I'm really looking forward to the IG's report that said, I think it was Mark Meadows come out the other day and said it's supposed to be coming out the first part of June. He said, I think they've got some new developments. It won't be quite that soon. So.
Well, I wonder if they're going to incorporate some of the things that the two district attorneys are working on for the Attorney General. I don't know why they would do that, because the IG report is supposed to be an independent fact finding. But the IG, they can't subpoena, they can't compel testimony. So I'm curious to see what it's going to say also.
I'm thinking there's a lot of people out there who's really not going to like what it says.
That's for sure.
Really looking forward to that. And, and here again, if it comes out and doesn't say what I think it's going to say, oh well.
Then over and done with.
It's over and done with. I'm not going to call for somebody to be impeached. I'm not going to call for somebody's resignation.
And I certainly don't want the Inspector General coming out and doing a press conference telling me why he can't do something.
And that's another thing. When Mueller come out and give his little 9-minute speech in there, he said, well, we can't
say the president didn't do it.
Well, that's not your job. That's up to a judge and jury.
So if you can't say the president did it, say nothing at all.
Because
that's the job of a prosecutor.
Yeah, because you're not the one who exonerates anybody. That job is not up to you.
Well,
which a lot of people I don't think they understand that.
That's a behind the back handshake deal with Jerry Nadler about testimony.
Oh, absolutely. Why did he come out and say something? Because he didn't have to. Because there was tons of pressure on him to come out from the Nadler. His people.
Mueller, I believe Mueller made a deal with Nadler to not get subpoenaed. But the pressure has been put on Nadler so badly that he's going to have to subpoena Mueller, but he's going to let Mueller do it behind closed doors.
Oh, absolutely. And then claim transparency.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be the most transparent investigation, but you can't see what's going on, and you're never going to see the transcripts. But the Mueller report, we want to see everything, okay? Yeah.
I mean, Trump obviously I don't like everything that President Trump does, but I like his policies. But this guy has been getting a 2.5-year colonoscopy.
Oh my God!
Enough is enough.
Since the day after the election, as soon as he won, it was game on. And then what have they found? And here's another thing: if Trump, because there's the Office of Legal Counsel has a memo or
a guideline
that says you can't
indict a sitting president
or convict a sitting president,
right,
because it'll obstruct the way he does his job. Well, you people on the left and in the media have done everything you can to make his job extremely difficult, and you know what? He's still doing pretty good. You may not like the way he does it, and I agree with that.
Well, if in fact that Mueller had found something that was impeachable or indictable on the president, he would have sent the list of indictments, charges, to the Attorney General, and then he would have sent one to the House Judiciary Committee.
Sure.
Because that's what he is supposed to do. This is what we found that he did. Now it's up to you guys.
Right. And the other part, if you couldn't get him and there was something going on, wouldn't you start picking off the people around him?
Well, but when you do a complete investigation, you have to look at everything. How did this start?
See, that's where the other investigation is going. I'm anxious to see how that turns out too.
That one will be more interesting than the IG report.
Sure it will. Sure it will. Because this may go all the way to the...
Well, the contempt thing that's going on with the Attorney General and President Trump's personal lawyer, McGahn, this is just a precursor to when they release their stuff to discredit them.
Sure.
And they're still salty about the Attorney General one-upped him when he had his press conference before they could. That tells me the Attorney General is a very intelligent man.
Well, you sit there and you watch him. There's very few times he ever stuttered or stammered around. There's only like a couple times. And you see these people out there in the news media say, well, he's got to be guilty of something. You see how nervous he was? Well, you know what? I didn't see all that nervousness you're talking about.
I saw irritation.
Irritation, definitely. And not to mention the fact you got how many cameras sitting 3 feet in front of you? Mm-hmm. You got a whole bunch of people out there that are not nearly as smart as you are asking you stupid questions. And you got possibly 100 million people watching you. So, it takes pretty thick skin to be able to sit there through all that for how many hours?
The lady senator from Hawaii.
She was terrible.
She called him everything but a human being.
There went her 5 minutes, yeah.
And then, well, our staff should ask questions because you're too stupid and a blowhard.
Exactly.
If you got a question, ask the man.
Yeah, she blew her chance, didn't she? We're just about out of time, Brett.
No way.
I got one article here that says, and this really irritates me. TSA has permitted at the airports has permitted illegals to board domestic flights at airports near the border without any of the 15 forms of identification it legally requires for all other passengers, according to the source from Homeland Security, who spoke on to the Washington Examiner. TSA spokesperson initially confirmed the report to the Examiner, explaining that migrants were permitted to board using the notice to appear they received from Citizenship and Immigration Services after passing the credible fear screening all asylum seekers undergo as ID. So we are swamped at the borders. We've got like 144,000 illegals across the border in May. And you think these people are going to have, they're running these people through with this notice to appear in court. How well do you think that screening process worked?
Well, maybe it's slightly less than a year or slightly more than a year from now, you and I are going to have a special ID card or our passport to fly within our own country.
It's called the Real ID. Now, I think, and you'd have to look it up, but I think that law was passed in 2005 or something like that in Illinois, and there's about 10 or 15 other states that still are not compliant with the Real ID Act, which I think we're supposed to be sometime this year or next. I don't remember now. But let's see. The agency reasoned that such migrants would have been subject to background checks by Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Customs and Border Protection and so they claim that this screening they did when they were kicked out into the United States where they're not supposed to be at, the screening they went through there is going to be sufficient to the same. It's going to be as credible as the screening you and I go through.
Yeah,
to get on a plane.
Sure it is.
And here's another article. This is from today, actually. Acting Homeland Security Secretary gives lawmakers a glimpse Tuesday just how many asylum seekers skipped their hearings after being released in the United States because they're credible, right? Because that, what I call it, that piece of paper thing to appear in court.
Notice to appear.
Notice to appear, because they're credible enough to fly on an aircraft, but 90% of them don't show up for the court hearing. It says out of 7,000 cases, 90 received final orders for of removal and abstention. 90%, he said. 90% did not show up. And this is Lindsey Graham talking. This guy said 90% did not show up at the 7,000. He said, that's right. So this credible notice to appear thing is going to get you on a plane, but you're not credible enough to show up for a hearing. So I feel real good about that, and that really burns my ass, because
Well, sure. I mean,
it should irritate everybody. It's wrong.
We hit undocumented immigrants pretty hard, and they should be. But something else that I think we've neglected, and I'm guilty of this too, you need to start hitting employers of undocumented.
Oh, absolutely. And
you need to hit them just as hard, if not harder.
well, I don't know if we was doing the show yet then, but I've talked before, and I know I've talked to you about it. Because we have the system, I forget what it's called now, to look these people up to find out if they're legal or not. And if you hire them anyway and they get caught, then whoever hired them should go to jail with them. You like these people so much, spend a little more time with them, see how much you like them then.
See, senor.
Yeah, and see how many people get hired in, see how many people get turned away from these jobs, or call the police and say, or the immigration and say, yeah, we got a couple over here, and I'm not going to go to jail with these guys. So, so
Or make the employer pay for the transportation back to wherever they came from,
something, but
and
yes.
with a stiff fine.
Sure. Oh yeah, treat them all as asylum seekers. Yeah, and yeah, still a bad idea. But hey, we got Mark Stevenson out there this evening too, and Brian Cooper. All right. Anyway, we're out of time.
One
Go ahead.
thing. Maybe you can answer this question for me.
Oh, okay. Woman in the hot sheet.
Why is it when a man talks dirty to a woman, it's sexual harassment, but when a woman talks dirty to a man, it's $8.99 a minute?
Tell me, Brett, because I don't know.
I don't either.
I'm not surprised you know those prices.
I saw commercials. I read.
Okay, folks, time for us to wrap things up. Really appreciate everybody that tuned in to the show and the phone call we got. And like I say, the people that give us ideas on things to talk about, greatly appreciate that. Makes our job just a little bit easier. If I missed you on the shout outs here, didn't mean to do that at all. Oh, we got Brent Brooks tuned in this evening too. So, well, you got anything else?
I'm done. I'm spent.
Okay, folks, we're going to wrap things up. Remember, if you love your country, you love your freedom, thank a veteran.
Absolutely.
Thanks for turning on and tuning in. May God bless. We'll see you next week.
That was David that texted me back.